Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another interview. Today, I'm joined with the Super Carlin brothers. Hello, how are you two doing today?
What's up, Jack? How's it going?
Doing pretty well. So to start off, typically when it comes to people who work in a duo, the standard question to ask is, how did you two meet? But considering the fact that you're two brothers, we might move along from that. And how did you two kind of come up with the idea for the channel?
Oh man, well, I'm sure you're familiar with the Vlog brothers, John and Hank Green. They were like a very big, like early on inspiration for us in the early days. I think back in like 2009 when I was in college at Virginia Tech, I realized that I was watching like more YouTube than I was watching like regular TV, and I was like, oh man. It took me a while of like realizing that all the people I was watching, especially back then, were just like with a camera in their bedroom, and I happened to be majoring in communication at the time, so I was doing lots of like video editing and stuff like that, and I was like, I think I could do this. So I started my own channel. It was called John Carlin. The videos are still up there. I do not recommend that you go watch them. Not great, a little cringy, but you gotta leave it up there if just so people can see where you came from.
There you
they're
go.
interested.
Yeah.
That was sort of just a hobby in college, and then I graduated and I got I got like a real job for a while. But after a while I got like the YouTube bug again. I was like, you know what, I think I can do it. I did like 50 videos on the other channel, so I was like, I have some experience. I think I know, like I can do it better with a fresh start. But like I mentioned, the Vlog brothers earlier, that's who I was watching a lot at the time.
Right.
And I knew I also had an extremely entertaining and funny brother as well. And I was like, dude, if I can get Ben to do this with me, this is going to be like a slam dunk, easy. It's going to be great. So I asked Ben if he wanted to do it. And of course he didn't at all.
Yeah, not even one bit. Like at the time, I wasn't consuming YouTube in any capacity whatsoever, other than like really basic, like how to repair home appliance.
Right, the standard stuff like, how do I tie a tie again? Or like the videos that everyone looks up.
Yes, exactly. Like I probably used it more just as like a very basic information source, like Wikipedia, than I used it ever for entertainment at all. And like we did grow up, our dad is like a local TV news anchor, so the idea of like being in front of a camera is certainly something that had been like potentially placed before us as something like we could do. And Jay, obviously, kind of with his degree, was following that path. But at the time, I was had a business that was installing like sort of ish custom aquariums. And I was maintaining those as well and selling like service contracts and stuff.
Right.
Believe it or not, there's not a lot of money in aquariums, which meant that I desperately needed a roommate. And so for my end of things, I was largely like, I don't know who these Vlog Brothers guys are, but Jay, if you'll be my roommate, then I will join you in this journey.
Yeah.
And we'll see how it goes.
So, so basically growing up together was like your test to become roommates in a way.
Yeah, absolutely.
We knew we could live together. We
exactly.
That for 18 years.
Right. I wasn't terribly concerned about our ability to be roommates.
Yeah, no.
I feel like we got along. I would go beyond saying in high school we weren't just brothers. We were actually friends.
Yeah, like we hung out with like the same friend group.
Yeah. So that was sort of the basic origin. That's what got us to the first Hey Brother, if you will.
Falling into that. So the start of your videos, every single one, you go, hey brother. Yeah. And I was kind of wondering, so are the videos supposed to be like messages to each other? Like, hey brother, look at this?
In the early days, yes, it was very much like these days, we do like the fan theories and stuff, and we do the deep dives and the trivia and the Easter eggs. But like early on, it was much more, it was supposed to appear like a conversation between us. Like, This is my half of the conversation. I'm talking to Ben as well as the audience, and then he was responding to me. And so as we we did that for like the first 2 years before somewhere in year 2 we did the Pixar Theory, which is the video that like really took off and sent us down like the fandom road. And we slowly started doing more and more fandom videos and stuff. But along the way, we just sort of kept our traditional like hey brother greeting. And so like we always joke that like if we were just making up the channel today, like there's no way you'd land on the formula we did. Like you wouldn't open it with "Hey brother," you wouldn't have an
Right.
alternating host, you wouldn't have called it Super Carlin Brothers. It would be like, you know, movie dives or something or whatever.
Right, yeah. Fan theories.
Fan theories. It's something very that you know what this channel is about based on the name.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think that if you were to go through and like binge everything from the beginning, there's probably like a very unintentional like grip that you can like watch sort of like loosen as the years go. Like I'd be willing to bet like in years 3, 4, 5, there's the occasional like, Jay, I know you love Frozen. Like where you're still kind of addressing like Jay is almost the
audience,
like the royal you.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You know, and so I think we sort of we never really made the conscious decision to like stop doing that. I think we just sort of like, as time went on, we realized more and more and more that like people probably weren't showing up as much for the like brother aspect of it as they were for the content itself. And you know, obviously there's so I think it's sort of like it's almost all gone now, other than the "Hey brother" at the beginning and you end every video with "See you in another life, brother."
Right.
And I think that's about it.
You had mentioned the Pixar theory.
Yes.
Would you say that is kind of like the changing moment or the changing video that really started to like help grow the channel or change the projection of it?
Absolutely.
And you definitely got to credit John Negroni is the man who actually like wrote the original Pixar theory. And I think our best contribution to that was adding to the popularity of it.
I think we just somehow were the first good video about it.
Yes.
And that was like before, like now every single franchise is a universe and everything's connected and it's like a very popular thing to look for, but like in 2012 it was not.
Everything being connected was still just a theory, just like back in the day, it was purgatory or it was a dream all along, like those theories, you know.
Right. Yeah.
Before people were like, you know, why don't we just make universes and you know, and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Right. And Pixar was obviously so famous for their use of Easter eggs.
They were, and like it's still so famous because like despite universes being very popular, it's like that they will tell you like we're not doing that, they're not connected.
Right.
like well, you say that, but I mean Riley's right here in Finding Dory, and there's a Buzz Lightyear in Finding Nemo, so like
exactly.
You know what I mean?
Right. And the funny, I'd be so curious to like talk to the original people who started injecting those. Like obviously, you know, like A113 was included in the first Toy Story, but it'd be very interesting to see if people are like, we were just using recycled assets. Like we'd already built that model. So like may as well, you know, we need toys on the floor of Boo's room, may as well throw a Jessie doll in there. We've already made it. Like
they just have a used assets folder and they're just like, we'll just why make a new thing.
But yeah, no, it would be very interesting to see if you could ever like really zoom back and get a glimpse into see like how much of an impact sort of that like inter-universe intertwining stuff, like whether or not it was at all impacted by the fans' enjoyment.
Oh, I know. Yeah, like now they're so aware of it. You know?
Yeah.
Well, people say constantly all the time, like they're keeping in mind, you know, other, you know, YouTube channels when it comes to either theories or even critic channels. Just the other day when, you know, touring for, you know, the Oscars and stuff, Jamie Lee Curtis is like, oh, I love Cinema Sins, you know, the different channels that, you know, critique people or try and see, is there a bigger picture here that we're not all seeing? And it's become more and more mainstream that the people who are involved in them are even kind of taking notice. So they'll intentionally sometimes put in an Easter egg to be like, well, let's give these guys a little sprinkle on the side.
Oh my gosh. I think when they were making WandaVision, I feel like they were like, let's just mess with people.
Yeah, it felt that way. It's like there's like a tiger that shows up in like 4 different scenes. It's like, what's
the deal with the tiger?
So far, nothing is the deal with the tiger.
And then obviously, so since the Pixar Theory, your channel has evolved into just a very theory-centric channel and multiple different fandoms and stuff like that. I gotta ask, how is the research end on that? And like, I assume in the beginning, you know, every topic you can come up with a different theory. Is it more difficult to just continue to keep coming up with stuff and things like that? And what is the research time that goes behind that?
That is the big, I mean, that's the big question. Like, you know, the biggest thing that like we've stuck to 2 videos a week basically since
Yeah.
2013. You know, we did 5 videos a week for all of 2012, which was, I wouldn't
Too
recommend
much.
to anybody.
Insane.
Yeah, and those were not like researched videos or anything. That was like effectively
Thought dump. Yeah.
thought dump edited together a little bit. And so I think now we definitely have trained ourselves, I think, to like look at media through a specific lens. Like plot holes are basically like our best friend, because anything that can't be explained, it's like, well, that just means that we need to find the explanation. Like there are no mistakes, just opportunities. You know, it's like so whenever we see that type of stuff, I think it opens the door. The fact that there's been just a huge like floodgate opened on the amount of media that's also being like injected into our world also definitely does create more opportunities. I know that when we were going through kind of the beginning of the pandemic and some of like the media world slowed down for a little bit there as production obviously came to a halt, that was definitely where we were like, we're going to need to go to the old barrels and start scraping around the bottom for some splinters.
Read some more books and stuff like that, since the media is kind of paused.
That's when
at the
I
moment.
think in COVID we started diving into Avatar: The Last Airbender. It was like, this is a nice fresh pool of stuff.
Yes,
exactly.
And so for us, that's always sort of like the challenge. Like we get requests a lot for other fandoms, like Percy Jackson, for example, is probably one of the most requested. And it's just always interesting to try to find which of those fandoms have wide enough reach that like when you deliver it to your audience, there will kind of be that like mass appeal as well. So the big ones for us so far have been Disney, Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, Harry Potter, and Avatar: The Last Airbender is really the big 6.
And so when you're doing your research for Theory, has there ever come across a time where you have to scrap the idea because you disprove the theory while you're reading or covering a topic?
Like actually just yesterday, we published a video about The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
And there was we were trying to prove that Supreme Leader Snoke is like a Strandcast clone of Grogu, and that's like the overall plot, the reason behind The Mandalorian.
Right.
And, like we were writing that, and then we was going to go up yesterday, which was Wednesday, as we're recording that. And of course, a new episode of Mandalorian came out, and like, you know, we hadn't watched it yet. And we're like, so like one of our editors came in and was like, apparently today's episode of The Mandalorian is like about Grogu's past and his future and stuff. So
we might want to watch
it just in case it immediately disproves the video. And thankfully it did not.
Right.
So it just went up as scheduled, no problem.
Yeah.
But there are times when you're going through and you'll catch what appears to be a snag, and so often there is a way around it.
Yeah. And quite frankly, like this is like one of those, it's been like an unusual and slowly dawning realization for me, is that probably first and foremost who we are and like what we do is we are writers. And so like I would say probably for me at least the most creatively fulfilling part of the process is it's coming up with the ideas, but it's also working through workshopping those problems. Like we have whiteboards. You can't really read anything on the one behind us.
Right.
But
No spoilers.
We have whiteboards all throughout the office that are just basically set up. So it's like, okay, like let's go and let's start figuring, and we'll draw circles and lines and all the rest. And typically I think what ends up happening is whenever we run into one of those stalls, we end up figuring out a way to actually use it to our advantage.
Yeah.
And it's exactly like I said before. It's like we're trying to solve a plot hole. We found a plot hole in our own explanation for a plot hole. So start the process over again.
Right. Like, usually if you started down like a theory, you're trying to answering a question, like if you've gotten that deep into it without there just being like, oh no, the answer is this, then chances are whatever is snagging you is fairly deep into the lore and either like not really well known or not as fleshed out as people think or anything. Like again with that Star Wars video yesterday, one of the things like we were suggesting was that Grogu's blood goes on to be a Strandcast of Emperor Palpatine, and that creates Rey's father, who then, you know, has Rey. So Rey and Grogu were connected. Yay, super fun. But like we found this like tiny bit of information from like a Star Wars reference book that counts as canon. And it's like, well, according to this, Rey's dad was born before A New Hope. And you're like, well, that's
a problem.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
But then you're like, okay, first of all, this is like a one sentence in a reference book. So there's that. But then you're also like, well, we don't exactly know how strand casting works. He could have been born then and then transformed or something in the future, or maybe you just get a clone of an older person rather than cloning a young baby. Like, you know, there's like
plus, especially when it comes to Star Wars right now, it's canon until it isn't. Like,
exactly.
Right. Yeah.
So,
like media takes the triumphs everything, and then they have the comics and the books and stuff. Like, we're like, yes, this is canon, unless we say otherwise.
Right. And on that exact note, the other big one is tweets. It is not uncommon for directors, writers, producers, anybody involved with the story to go on Twitter, be answering questions, you know, kind of interacting with fans and stuff, revealing a piece of information about a character. And it's like, from our standpoint, we always have a love-hate relationship with these, because it either means like, it's like we either use the tweet as source material if it helps support the theory, and if it doesn't, then it's like, well, that doesn't count. It's just a tweet.
I know, like the director of Lightyear, for example, he is super good at responding to tweets. So I've like tweeted just at him like questions about Lightyear, and this is like months after the fact, and he'll just respond and just be like, yeah, no, that's how I thought of it, or I always thought of it this way, and I was like, good enough for me.
Right.
On the other hand, though, like we keep bringing up Star Wars, but there's this famous page in one of the Darth Vader comics that appears to confirm that like Emperor Palpatine like used the Force to create Anakin in Anakin's mother. Like, you know, like it wasn't just like a miracle birth, it was manipulated. Right. And it's like, that's been a theory out there forever. And it's like, it's right here, it's on the page. And it's like, that's clearly what it says. But then on Twitter, the guy writing the comment was like, oh man, everyone interpreted this wrong. That's not what I meant. I meant for him to be planting that image in Vader's brain. And you're like, well, you say that now, but you can't rely on everyone having checked your tweet, man.
Well, it's also the same how, you know, both George Lucas and Samuel L. Jackson have like discussed the concept of Mace Windu still being alive. And George is like, oh yeah, you know, oh yeah, sure, he could have lived from that. It's like, well, coulda, woulda, shoulda, let's see it.
Yeah,
you know,
maybe he didn't. I don't know.
Schrodinger's, you know, Jedi Master, sort of. It's like he's alive and dead until confirmed whether or not, basically.
Right. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, if you want a free theory idea, here's one for you. Anakin and Grogu are born in the same year. We haven't been able to figure out why that's important yet.
No way it's not.
No way 41 BBY isn't a very important time in the Star Wars universe.
So going on with, you know, all the knowledge you gain from all your theories, one of my particular favorite type of videos you do are your trivia videos, where you compete against each other for supreme master of all knowledge. Are there any questions or facts that like still kind of haunt you, that you just, you know, you've gotten wrong a few times and you just, that's the thing you study every single time?
Oh my gosh, I could tell you that how much Fred and George bet Ludo Bagman that Ireland wins but Crumb catches the snitch is one that flits in and out of my brain. Like, we've been asked that question maybe more than any other trivia question, and I can never remember.
I still can't remember.
I
know it's 37 galleons.
37 galleons, yeah.
Something and a trick wand.
And a trick wand. Something and a trick wand. There's a whole
16 sickles, 3 knots. That's my guess.
There you go. 6 sickles, 3 knots.
Fact check me.
Yeah. There's one chapter, I think, in Order of the Phoenix that takes place on the Janus Thicky ward. That like there's like just it's like an information dump of a chapter, because it's like the only time you're visiting the hospital. So like, yeah, look at all these crazy things. But, I mean, we can never remember anything about the Janus Thicky ward. Yeah, it's that's always a super tricky one. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I know that we did the only episode I think we've ever recorded of Super Carlin Brothers ever where I finished and was mad afterwards was we did an Encanto quiz where it was like finish the lyrics. And I am famously bad with music. Like I cannot remember the lyrics to my favorite songs. Like it's not just like Encanto. And my Spotify Unwrapped or whatever, my top 10 favorite songs were all Encanto songs. And by the end of it, I was just like, I was furious. Yeah, like, it was so bad. So that one was, the team I think has always been very like,
I'm not doing another one of those with Ben.
Or finish the lyric quizzes.
Yeah.
So moving away from the channel itself for a moment, a really fun fact that I think is so interesting, you have your own successful coffee brand.
Mhm.
How did that come about as YouTubers? And as you know, when you're talking about it, do you have a favorite, flavor or a recommendation for coffee drinkers?
Oh man. I
Oh.
mean, our big thing for the coffee, and like literally written on the back of the bag, is sort of like, this is very high-end coffee. If you've ever had like craft beer before, this is like craft coffee. Like that's sort of the basic equivalent. But when it comes down to it, like to us, we really don't care. Like how, as long as you're enjoying your coffee, which to us is not even necessarily like beans or caffeine. It's sort of like it's like the experience. It's the moment of like slowing down long enough to like have your morning cup of coffee. It's the ritual involved. Like I think at the end of the day, we wanted to have great coffee for those people who can recognize it. But otherwise just coffee for people to enjoy in the meantime.
Right.
So that's sort of like the philosophy behind like how we approached our specific like spread and everything. But otherwise, this was a prime example, and I feel like probably most people in their lives have the moment at some point, but it was the right place at the right time for us. We were working with a talent manager at the time out of Orlando, Florida, and his like next door neighbor at his apartment complex happened to be a guy who was involved with a Orlando-based coffee brand. But prior to being the CFO of that company, actually worked for a MCN and a multi-channel network in the world of YouTube.
Right.
So was really interested in working with creators of some kind.
Right.
To basically develop a national or global brand attached to their YouTube channel. And so like by paths crossing and these people being neighbors with each other, it basically was like, I have some guys who might be a great fit for this. And that was back in I think the conversation started in 2017. And that's pretty much, like we went down, we met everybody, we worked on the brand, we designed all the, the branding for it, the logos, and it's just been rocking and rolling ever since. And it's been cool because I think I hope the end goal here is that if you're a viewer of our show and you wanted a way to support the show, then something that you may already be purchasing anyway is a daily commodity like coffee. And because it's a great roast, it's an opportunity to sort of show support to creators who you like, and this is not just us, they're anybody, while also just purchasing something that you might be purchasing anyway. So that's kind of the other underlying pitch to it.
The other cool thing about it is that we work with like a few different partners. So like, we have one blend that we just introduced called our Nimbus Bike blend, which if you need a recommendation for one of the coffees to try, I would go with that one because we've been having it here at the office this week and it is so good.
It is incredible.
But what's cool about that one is that 100% of the proceeds go to helping build mountain bike trails in our hometown.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, and then a portion of proceeds from anything else you buy on the site goes towards Feeding Southwest Virginia, which is just a branch of Feeding America. So also comes back right into our like local community.
Right.
That's cool too.
So sort of going along how you said, right place, right time. So as your YouTube channel has grown, obviously, more opportunities open up. Have there been any, events or any things that have happened thanks to the popularity of the channel that has like opened doors to things that you like, wow, there's no way we would have been able to been here without having, something like this, something like that.
Oh, dude, you're asking us at just the right time.
Yeah.
Literally last week, we got invited down to Disney World to cover the opening of the brand new Tron Light Cycle ride. And that was one of those things where you're down there and like they planned out like your whole day for like 3 days at Disney. I mean, they're long days. You were like up at 7:30 and you were back like past midnight.
Yeah.
But like in the meantime, like I mean, it was just like a crazy experience. And they had, you know, lightning lanes for all these different rides, and you jumped to like 3 parks, and you got to try some of the new food. And then, you know, they had this big party to celebrate Tron. And you're just looking around the whole time like, is this happening?
I know, yeah.
You're
Like how
this can't be.
how do we get to do this? You know, because you're talking about what's going to be like a marquee attraction at one of the most popular vacation destinations on the planet.
Yeah,
And
of course.
you know, like getting to be one of the first people, other than like, you know, the
the
staff
engineers,
members
yeah, and the
engineers,
cast members.
to ride it, and not just ride it, but get off of it and literally have somebody standing there holding the door back to the front of the line saying, want to go again?
Yeah, like,
And you know, so we got to ride it like 7 times.
Mm.
And you know, by the end of it, Jay and I, who frequent Disney parks anyway, just as tourists, like, you know, we're saying to each other, we're like, it might be 10 years before we've ridden this thing 7 more times.
right, you know, like
Of
like,
course.
it's going to be, the lines for this are going to be crazy. And you know, if you go to Disney, you probably go to Magic Kingdom one of the days you're
Right.
there, and you only probably ride Tron once
Yeah.
while you're there, you know. So yeah, it was like it could, yeah, this is so weird. Like we rode it 7 times today, but we'll like this doesn't happen. When will we get this chance again?
I know,
Of
yeah. So
course.
you're standing there, and like there is that moment where not only are you starting to get a little stirred just from having ridden a high-paced roller coaster
Of course.
times in a row, but you're like, I feel like I can't let this opportunity down.
I know, like-
how many times is too many times? Like,
Yeah.
but I mean, that was that's definitely one of those experiences that, like, you know, so many other great moments in life. You know, you're like, no matter what else happens, it's like I'll always get to have that memory. I'll always get to be able to like go back and like and know that we were there. And
When you
I think that
the
will always
time
be
you were a
great.
VIP at Disney.
Yes,
Exactly,
yeah.
yeah.
It's like, you know, that's a very special thing, you know, especially for us. I think it just like it just resonates. So it was really cool.
And then I'd say, you know, finally to circle back for people who, you know, are kind of new to your channel or just in general, what are your favorite go-to videos and theories that you guys have? Like ones that you're like, you know what? We nailed that.
Oh my gosh. Probably my favorite thing we've ever made, we made last summer, and it was called What If Harry Was in Slytherin?
Yeah.
And it was like this big 8-part series going through each Harry Potter book, and just like sort of retelling the story if Harry had been sorted in Slytherin instead of Gryffindor. How does that affect the narrative? Does he still defeat Voldemort? You know, like, does he still be friends with Ron and Hermione? He does. But
Yeah, I mean, like from like a creative writing standpoint, I mean, it was almost at one point in time we had somebody tell us it was like too granular. Like,
yeah,
you guys are talking about like the changes that will be made because now that Harry's not a Gryffindor, he won't be in History of Magic during this particular classroom, which means
no,
he
no,
would
it's
have had-
important
right.
because that's when he learns about the chamber. Okay, like, you know, whatever.
But it was really, really cool because I think from like a creative writing standpoint, like it really allowed us, I think, to flex our muscles and sort of give an alternative reality in complete form to, you know, fans of the series. And like a typical Super Carlin Brothers script for us as we're typing, it might be 5-6 pages long, and the finished product on this entire series was over 200 pages
Ooh,
of writing.
Yeah,
what a script.
I know.
I
yeah.
know.
So for us, it was really big. It was really fun. And throughout the process, we had fun calls to action for people tuning in at the time to do some like drawing challenges and stuff.
yeah,
And people took the ball and ran with it.
They
I mean,
did.
they
awesome.
gave us such incredible like visuals for like what we had thought of. And so that was a really fun project for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, I just want to thank you again for giving me the time to, you know, sort of learn about the creation and the history of Super Carlin Brothers.
Absolutely.
I know I've been a fan for a few years now. I always enjoy your content. You know, when I see a new video, I jump on it, and just hope you have a wonderful day, and thanks again for your time.
Thank you for having
Thanks
us,
so
Jack.
much,
We
Jack.
appreciate it.